Your mind is never truly silent, not even when you sleep. Beneath the stillness of your breath, beyond the drift of your body into rest, there is a deeper current at work. A place where memories, beliefs, and emotions continue to flow, shaping not only your dreams, but your waking life. Most people think of sleep as simply physical recovery, a time when the body rests, the brain shuts down, and the world fades away. But the truth is far more profound. While your conscious mind sleeps, your subconscious awakens. It listens, it learns, it reshapes the very patterns that define how you think, feel, and act. And this is where untapped power lives, a space where healing can begin, where change becomes possible. But here's the problem. Most of us go to sleep carrying the weight of the day, unprocessed stress, lingering negativity, words we've heard, fears we've entertained, and without knowing it, we feed that energy into the night, letting it hardwire itself deeper with every breath. The result? We wake up with the same burdens we hoped to escape, the same anxiety, the same fatigue, the same self-doubt. The cycle repeats, but it doesn't have to. The Stoics believe that discipline is not confined to the hours of daylight. It extends into every choice, every ritual, every habit that shapes the soul. And sleep is no exception. In fact, the hours before and during sleep are one of the most fertile grounds for transformation. Because when your conscious defense is lower, your subconscious becomes receptive. The seeds you plant at night, through thought, through word, through intention, take root in the deepest layers of your being. What if you could use this time to heal, to release old stories, to reprogram limiting beliefs, to nourish both body and mind from within? You can, and it begins with awareness. In this episode, we'll explore how to consciously guide your mind during sleep. We'll draw on timeless Stoic wisdom and modern understanding of neuroplasticity to unlock 10 powerful lessons for reprogramming the mind and healing the body while you sleep. Because the truth is simple, you are always shaping who you will become, even when you close your eyes. And when you learn to guide that process, you stop being a prisoner of old patterns and start becoming the architect of your inner world. 1. Your brain is always listening. Long after you drift into sleep, your mind remains awake in ways most people never imagine. It listens, not with the conscious attention you use during the day, but with a deeper, more subtle awareness. The subconscious mind doesn't sleep. It processes, it absorbs, it continues the endless work of shaping your inner world. And what it absorbs is determined by what you feed it, especially in the moments before sleep. Think about this. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. Even when you're unconscious, it's scanning for patterns, organizing memories, and encoding new associations. This is why your dreams often reflect the thoughts and emotions you carried during the day. But more importantly, it's why the final inputs before you sleep become some of the most potent influences on your nervous system, your beliefs, and even your physical health. Neuroscience confirms this. During sleep, particularly in the deeper stages, the brain enters a state of heightened plasticity. This means it's more capable of rewiring itself, forming new neural pathways, and consolidating learning. But this plasticity is not neutral. It depends on what you've exposed your mind to. If you fall asleep replaying negative conversations, watching anxiety-provoking media, or ruminating on fear, your subconscious absorbs that. It reinforces stress patterns. It primes your body for more tension upon waking. But if you intentionally guide your thoughts through calming words, gratitude, visualization, or focused intention, you begin planting new seeds. and those seeds take root in the fertile soil of the sleeping mind. The Stoics, though they lacked modern neuroscience, intuitively understood this. They were deeply aware of the power of mental rehearsal. Marcus Aurelius would often journal at night, not simply to record his day, but to align his thoughts with virtue, clarity, and peace. He was preparing his mind for sleep, knowing that what he carried into the night would shape the quality of his soul. And the same is true for us today. Your brain is always listening to your self-talk, to your environment, to the emotional tone you cultivate before sleep. This is not about perfection or rigid control. It's about awareness. It's about choosing, with intention, what you want your subconscious to work on while your body rests. Because here's the truth. Your mind will be busy all night, whether you guide it or not. The question is, will it be working for your healing or deepening your wounds? Will it be building resilience or reinforcing fear? You have more influence over that process than you realize. So begin here. Become conscious of what you're feeding your mind in the hour before sleep. The words you hear, the emotions you feel, the stories you tell yourself, because your brain is always listening, and what it hears tonight will shape who you are tomorrow. 2. Your last thoughts shape your night. What you think in the final moments before sleep is not a small thing. It is an imprint. It becomes the emotional tone that carries through your night and often into your next day. Most people underestimate this. They let their last thoughts be accidental, scrolling through social media, replaying an argument, worrying about tomorrow. And without realizing it, they carry that chaos straight into their sleep. But the Stoics understood. The mind is impressionable, especially when it begins to detach from conscious awareness. In those final minutes of wakefulness, your brain is transitioning from active thinking, beta waves, into slower, more receptive states, alpha and theta waves. In this space, the boundary between conscious and subconscious softens. What you focus on sinks deeper. It bypasses resistance. It becomes a kind of mental programming. This is why your last thoughts matter so much. If they are anxious, you prime your nervous system for restless sleep. If they are filled with gratitude, you soothe the system, preparing the body for true rest and recovery. If they are empowering, you begin to rewrite limiting patterns even as you sleep. Think of your last thoughts like the setting of a compass. Once sleep begins, your mind will drift, but the direction is already chosen. It will drift toward what you last fed it. Negative thought patterns become rehearsed. Positive ones become reinforced. And this happens automatically beneath the surface. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself at night of the principles he wanted to embody: courage, patience, clarity. Why? Because he knew that by impressing these values on his mind before sleep, he would rise with them more deeply integrated. He wasn't trying to control every dream. He was aligning the current. Modern psychology supports this. Studies show that affirmations, visualizations, and even simple statements of gratitude before bed can enhance sleep quality, reduce stress markers, and promote more positive emotional states upon waking. The body and mind are not separate. They are linked in a feedback loop, and sleep is one of the most powerful places to influence that loop. But most importantly, this practice gives you agency. Instead of being a passive passenger of your thoughts, you become the guide. You choose the emotional resonance of your night. And over time, this builds a new kind of self-trust. The knowing that you can shape your inner experience even when asleep. So ask yourself, what are you feeding your mind before sleep? Are you ending your day with worry or with wisdom? Are you falling asleep in a state of gratitude or in a state of regret, because the quality of your rest and the energy of your next morning begins with that simple choice. Tonight, before you close your eyes, pause, breathe, set an intention, speak a truth you want to carry through the night. Because your last thoughts are not forgotten, they shape the very ground upon which your dreams and your healing will walk. 3. Words become biology. It's easy to think of words as abstract, as sound, as language, as something that floats in the air and then disappears. But that's an illusion. Words are not neutral. They are carriers of emotion, of energy, of chemical influence. The words you feed your mind, whether spoken aloud, whispered in thought, or consumed from others, shape not only your psychology, but your biology. Let's start with this truth. Your body is always listening to your mind. The thoughts you think and the words you say create biochemical responses in the nervous system. When you repeat words of fear, anger, or self-judgment, your body responds as if under threat. Cortisol rises, inflammation increases, heart rate variability decreases, sleep quality is impaired. And over time, this is not just mental stress, it becomes physical degradation. Conversely, words of compassion, calm, and affirmation activate a different system entirely. They signal safety. They promote parasympathetic response, the rest and digest state. They encourage hormonal balance, tissue repair, and immune function. In other words, healing. And this is not philosophy, it's physiology. Every thought you think leaves a biochemical trace, and words are the trigger. Now, why does this matter so much at night? Because sleep is when the body does its deepest repair work. Cells regenerate, toxins are cleared from the brain, hormones rebalance. But if your mind is feeding your body stress language before sleep, I'm failing. Nothing will ever change. I'm so behind. You're sending the wrong signals. You're telling your body to brace, not to heal, to guard, not to release. The Stoics taught us to discipline speech, not just outwardly, but inwardly. Epictetus reminded his students that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. And what are opinions, if not words, repeated to ourselves until they become belief? Change the words, and you begin to change the belief. Change the belief, and you begin to change the body. Modern science echoes this. Research on psychoneuroimmunology, the study of how thoughts affect immunity, shows that repeated positive affirmations can strengthen immune response, lower inflammation, and improve sleep outcomes. Why? Because language is chemistry. The stories you tell your body become the signals it obeys. This is why night is such a crucial window. When the conscious mind softens, the subconscious becomes more receptive. Words spoken during this time, whether through guided meditation, affirmations, prayer, or even your own self-talk, bypass critical resistance. They enter deeper. They become part of the operating system. But this also requires discernment. Many people unknowingly program themselves negatively at night. They fall asleep with the TV blaring news of conflict and disaster. They replay arguments in their minds. They scroll through social feeds filled with comparison and judgment. And all of this enters the body, not as neutral information, but as biological stress. Over time, it wears down resilience. You must become a gatekeeper of your words, especially before sleep. What you say, what you hear, what you think in those final moments matters more than most people realize. Because in that space, you are literally scripting the chemistry of your next 8 hours. You are telling your cells whether to rest or to brace. So practice this discipline. Choose your words at night as carefully as you would choose medicine. Feed your mind phrases that calm. I am safe. I release what no longer serves me. I trust the process of healing. These are not empty slogans. They are biochemical triggers. They tell the body, now is the time to restore. And over time, the body will respond. Sleep will deepen. Recovery will strengthen. Resilience will grow. Because words are not just air, they are biology. And the story you tell yourself tonight will become the chemistry of your body tomorrow. 4. Use repetition to rewire. Change does not happen in a single moment of insight. It happens through repetition, through the slow, steady layering of new thoughts, new behaviors, new beliefs. And when it comes to reprogramming the mind during sleep, repetition is not just helpful, it is essential. Your brain is designed to adapt. Neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form and reorganize neural pathways, is driven by repeated experience. The more you repeat a thought, an image, a phrase, or a behavior, the stronger the neural circuit becomes. It's like carving a groove in the mind. The deeper the groove, the more easily future thoughts will follow that path. But here's what most people forget. This rewiring process doesn't stop when you sleep. In fact, sleep is when much of the consolidation happens. During certain sleep stages, particularly deep sleep, slow wave, and REM sleep, the brain reviews, reinforces, and embeds experiences from the day. It strengthens what you've rehearsed most. And if you intentionally feed it new patterns before sleep, it will begin to favor those patterns over old, limiting ones. This is why nightly repetition is so powerful. By choosing a set of thoughts or affirmations and revisiting them every night before sleep, you are telling the brain, this matters, prioritize this, make this my new default. Over time, the mind responds. New connections form, old ones weaken. Belief shifts from conscious effort to subconscious programming. The Stoics practiced this long before neuroscience explained it. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wasn't writing for the sake of documentation. He was rehearsing values. He was repeating principles, courage, wisdom, discipline, so that they would take root, not just intellectually, but in the core of his being. He understood that repetition was the path to embodiment. Modern science validates this. Studies on affirmations, visualization, and cognitive behavioral therapy all point to the same truth. Repeated exposure changes the brain. Neural circuits adapt to what is rehearsed most often. And when that rehearsal is paired with the receptive state of pre-sleep, when conscious resistance is lower, the process accelerates. But there's a catch. Repetition must be deliberate. Mindless repetition, going through the motions without presence, lacks impact. The key is mindful engagement, speaking an affirmation with feeling, visualizing a desired outcome with clarity, breathing into the state you wish to cultivate. This engages both the emotional and cognitive centers of the brain, making the imprint stronger. And consistency matters. Repeating a thought once won't override years of conditioning, but doing it nightly, that's where transformation begins. It's like watering a seed. At first, no change is visible, but beneath the surface, the soil is shifting, roots are growing, and one day, almost suddenly, the new growth becomes obvious. The same happens within the mind. You may not notice profound change after a few nights of repetition, but stay with it, trust the process. Over weeks and months, the old patterns weaken, new ones strengthen. What once felt like effort begins to feel natural. And that's when the rewiring has truly occurred. So ask yourself, what do I want my mind to believe? What patterns do I want to install? Choose them consciously, and then, night after night, feed them into your subconscious, through word, through visualization, through presence. Let repetition do its work, because in the end, you are what you repeatedly think, and when you pair conscious repetition with the receptive power of sleep, you begin to rewire not just your mind, but your life. 5. Remove negativity. Before sleep. Carrying negativity into sleep is like drinking poison before trying to heal. You may close your eyes, but the mind does not forget what it holds. Unprocessed emotions, anger, resentment, guilt, fear, do not dissolve simply because you wish to rest. They follow you into the night, shaping the tone of your dreams, tightening your nervous system, and disrupting the very healing you seek. The Stoics taught that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control what we carry within us. And this wisdom is especially true when it comes to preparing the mind for sleep. The hours of the night are meant for restoration, of the body, of the mind, of the spirit. But when we fall asleep entangled in negative emotions, we rob ourselves of that restoration. We invite inner turbulence when the goal should be deep calm. Modern science confirms this. Emotional states before sleep significantly influence sleep quality. High levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, disrupt sleep architecture. They delay deep sleep, fragment REM cycles, and lead to shallow, restless nights. And unresolved negative emotions are a primary driver of elevated cortisol. What you do not release before sleep, your body must struggle to process during sleep, and this comes at a cost. Think of it this way: sleep is like a reset button for the nervous system, but if you press that button while the system is overloaded with stress, it cannot reset fully. You wake up groggy, anxious, unrefreshed, even if you slept for many hours. Why? Because the quality of the sleep was poisoned by what was carried into it. This is why removing negativity before sleep is not optional. It is essential. It is a discipline, a cleansing practice. Just as you would not go to bed without washing your body, you should not go to bed without cleansing the mind. And this doesn't require hours of effort. Simple practices, done with intention, can create profound shifts. First, reflection. Before sleep, take a few moments to acknowledge what you are holding. What anger is unresolved? What worry is looping? What regret is lingering? Do not fight these emotions. Witness them. Awareness is the first step to release. Second, forgiveness. Forgive yourself for the imperfections of the day. Forgive others for their failings, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Carrying grudges into sleep only binds you to pain. Releasing them frees your energy for healing. Third, gratitude. Shift your focus deliberately. What can you be grateful for today, however small? Gratitude activates parasympathetic response, the state of rest, digestion, and healing. It calms the body and signals to the brain it is safe to rest. Fourth, intention. Set a clear inner statement. I choose to release what no longer serves me. I allow my body and mind to heal. This simple act of conscious release sends a powerful signal to the subconscious. It gives permission to let go. The Stoics understood this in their own way. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that life is short, and to carry anger into the night is to waste precious moments of peace. Seneca wrote of the importance of mental hygiene, cleansing the mind of envy, bitterness, and fear, as one would cleanse the body of dirt. And we must do the same, because the mind you sleep with is the mind you wake with. If you carry negativity into sleep, you reinforce it. But if you release it, you create space for clarity, for calm, for the deep healing that only sleep can provide. So tonight, before you close your eyes, pause, reflect, forgive, release. Speak to your inner self, I let go, I choose peace. And as you drift into sleep, know this: what you let go of now is no longer yours to carry tomorrow. 6. Use visualization before sleep. The images you feed your mind before sleep do not simply fade, they embed. Visualization is one of the most powerful tools you can use to reprogram your subconscious. When practiced before sleep, it engages both the imagination and the nervous system, creating a bridge between intention and embodiment. Here's why. The brain does not easily distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you visualize with clarity and emotional depth, you activate many of the same neural networks that would fire if the experience were actually happening. The motor cortex, the emotional centers, even the autonomic nervous system respond to imagined stimuli. In essence, you are rehearsing reality in the theater of the mind. And when you pair this with the pre-sleep state, when the mind is transitioning into slower brainwaves and becoming more suggestible, the effects deepen. Visualization during this window can help encode new patterns of thought, behavior, and even physiological response. It's not magic, it's neuroplasticity at work. The Stoics practiced a form of this, though they did not call it visualization. Marcus Aurelius would mentally rehearse the challenges he might face the next day, imagining himself responding with virtue, patience, and wisdom. This wasn't pessimism, it was preparation. By seeing himself act in alignment with his values, he was training his nervous system to respond that way under pressure. You can apply the same principle to healing and transformation. Before sleep, close your eyes and visualize the state you wish to cultivate, in body, in mind, in life. If you are seeking physical healing, imagine your body regenerating, your cells repairing, your energy renewing. If you are working on emotional resilience, see yourself facing challenges with calm and strength. If you are building confidence, envision yourself moving through the world with clarity and purpose. The key is emotional engagement. It's not enough to see the image. You must feel it. The more sensory and emotional detail you bring to the visualization, the stronger the neural imprint. This is what creates change at the subconscious level. And repetition matters. Visualization is a skill, and like any skill, it improves with practice. The more you do it, the more vivid and immersive it becomes, and the more powerfully it shapes your inner world. When done nightly, visualization becomes a kind of inner compass, subtly guiding your thoughts, behaviors, and physiological state. Modern research supports this. Studies on athletes, for example, show that mental rehearsal can improve performance as much as physical practice. Visualization has also been shown to reduce stress, improve immune function, and accelerate physical healing. Why? Because the mind influences the body, and what the mind rehearses, the body tends to follow. But this is not about rigid control. Visualization is a practice of alignment, not force. You are not trying to make something happen through willpower. You are offering the mind and body a new pattern to explore, to absorb, to gradually embody. It is an invitation, not a demand. So tonight, before sleep, take time to visualize, not in a rushed or mechanical way, but with presence, with curiosity, with trust. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what state do I wish to cultivate? What experience do I want to invite into my being? Then see it, feel it, rest in it, and know this: What you consistently visualize before sleep begins to shape the architecture of your mind. It influences your dreams, your nervous system, your waking choices. Over time, the imagined becomes the embodied, because the images you plant at night become the realities you harvest by day. 7. Surround your sleep with positivity. The environment in which you sleep is not neutral. It speaks to your nervous system in ways both obvious and subtle. Long before you close your eyes, your surroundings have already begun shaping the quality of your rest. The textures you feel, the sounds you hear, the light or darkness in the room, even the emotional energy that lingers from the day, all of it enters your system and influences how deeply you are able to relax and restore. You see, the body responds to cues. It is always scanning the environment for signals of safety or threat. This is not conscious, it is primal. If the space around you feels chaotic, cluttered, or emotionally charged, your nervous system remains slightly activated even as you try to sleep. The result? Rest is shallow, recovery is incomplete, and the mind remains restless, processing unfinished tension. Conversely, when your sleep environment is infused with cues of calm, order, and positivity, the body relaxes more fully. The parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest, digestion, and healing, is allowed to dominate. This creates the optimal conditions for deep sleep, cellular repair, and subconscious reprogramming. The Stoics would remind us that external simplicity fosters inner calm. Seneca often wrote about the importance of aligning one's physical surroundings with one's inner values. Excessive clutter, unnecessary noise, visual chaos. These are not trivial matters. They disturb the mind, even if subtly, and in the context of sleep, their impact becomes magnified. So how do you begin surrounding your sleep with positivity? First, declutter the space. A bedroom filled with disorder signals unfinished business to the brain. The mind reads clutter as unresolved tasks, which keeps cognitive load elevated. Clear your space. Simplify. Create a physical environment that communicates, here we rest, here we restore. Second, curate the sensory input. Harsh lighting before bed disrupts melatonin production and keeps the nervous system alert. Soften the lighting. Use warm tones. Dim the space as evening progresses, signaling to the body that night is near. Sound matters too. Replace jarring noise with calming alternatives. Gentle music, nature sounds, or pure silence. Your auditory environment becomes the soundtrack of your subconscious. Third, infuse the space with intentional positivity. This can take many forms: meaningful objects, soothing scents, visual reminders of peace or purpose. Some people use calming essential oils. Others place a meaningful quote by the bedside. The goal is not to overfill the space, but to seed it with subtle signals of calm and alignment. Fourth, be mindful of what energetic residue you allow into the space. If your last activity before bed is a stressful conversation, an intense movie, or doom scrolling through negative news, that emotional charge lingers. The space holds it, and so does your body. Replace these habits with rituals that foster tranquility: light reading, meditation, journaling, gentle breathwork. Let your final moments in the space before sleep be infused with calm. And finally, remember that positivity is not just external, it is relational. If you share your space with another, the emotional tone of your interactions matters deeply. Arguments before bed leave residue. Resentments unspoken become barriers to rest. Practice reconciliation, kindness, and emotional closure as part of your nightly rhythm. Sleep thrives in a space of harmony. Modern research supports all of this. Studies show that environmental factors, light, sound, temperature, clutter, profoundly impact sleep quality. But even more compelling is the emerging understanding of emotional environment. The emotional tone you cultivate in your space and within yourself is perhaps the greatest determinant of whether your sleep becomes a source of healing or merely an escape from stress. So tonight, look around. Ask yourself, does this space support my deepest rest? Does it nourish calm or agitate it? Is it aligned with the kind of mind and body I wish to wake with tomorrow? Small changes, made with intention, can yield profound shifts. Because when you surround your sleep with positivity, you are not just improving your night, you are transforming your days. You are giving yourself the gift of deeper healing, clearer thinking, and a mind that wakes renewed, not weighed down. And in a world that so often steals our peace, this is a form of radical self-care and of quiet, stoic strength. 8. Protect your sleep environment. In today's hyper-connected world, protecting the space in which you sleep is more than a luxury. It's a necessity, because your environment is not just physical, it's energetic. And if you do not guard it with care, the subtle intrusions of modern life will disrupt the deep healing that sleep is meant to provide. Think of your bedroom as a sanctuary, not in a poetic sense, in a literal, physiological sense. It should be the one place where your nervous system knows, here I can release, here I can rest without vigilance. But for many, the bedroom has become an extension of the day's chaos. Laptops, smartphones, endless notifications, harsh lighting, all of these keep the mind tethered to wakefulness, to stress, to unfinished tasks. The Stoics understood the importance of boundaries. Seneca spoke often of the need to guard one's inner life from the intrusions of the external world. And in no place is this more relevant today than in the context of sleep. Because when you fail to protect your sleep environment, you allow the world to follow you into the night, fragmenting rest, disturbing the subconscious, and leaving you depleted upon waking. So how do you reclaim this space? How do you make it sacred again? First and foremost, technology, discipline. The blue light emitted from screens disrupts circadian rhythms by suppressing melatonin production, making it harder for the body to shift into sleep mode. But beyond the physiological effects, there's the deeper issue of cognitive stimulation. Social media, emails, news feeds, they flood the mind with stimuli, keeping neural circuits in a state of hyperarousal. This is the opposite of what sleep requires. Create a boundary, designate a time, at least 30 to 60 minutes before bed, where screens are set aside. Let the bedroom become a place free from the digital tether. This signals to the mind, the day is done, it is safe to let go. Second, consider the sensory environment. Temperature matters. The body's core temperature naturally drops as it prepares for sleep, so a cool room supports this process. Sound matters. Eliminate background noise that agitates the mind. If necessary, use white noise or calming soundscapes to foster tranquility. And light matters deeply. Even small amounts of light can disrupt sleep cycles. Aim for as much darkness as possible, using blackout curtains if needed. But beyond these physical factors, there's the energetic environment, the emotional residue of what you allow into the space. If your last activity in the bedroom is a heated argument, a stressful phone call, or anxious rumination, that energy lingers. The room remembers. And your body, attuned to subtle cues, responds accordingly, often with shallow sleep or restless dreams. To protect your sleep environment energetically, cultivate rituals of closure. Journaling is powerful. It allows you to empty the mind onto the page, clearing cognitive clutter. Breathwork helps release tension stored in the body. Gentle stretching or meditation can shift the nervous system toward parasympathetic dominance, the state required for deep rest. And perhaps most importantly, set an intention for the space itself. Treat it with respect. Keep it clean, orderly, and aligned with your values. When you enter the bedroom, let it be a signal. This is a place of rest, of healing, of renewal. Over time, this conditioning becomes embodied. The very act of entering the space begins to calm the mind. Modern research supports all of this. Studies consistently show that environmental factors, from light and temperature to clutter and technology use, directly impact sleep quality, hormonal balance, and even immune function. But what is often missed is the cumulative effect, how small intrusions add up over time, eroding the body's ability to fully restore itself. You must become vigilant, not rigid, but intentional. Protect your sleep environment as you would protect your most valuable asset, because in truth, it is. Deep, restorative sleep is not a passive act. It is an active foundation for mental clarity, emotional resilience, and physical vitality. So tonight, ask yourself, what does my sleep space communicate to my body, to my mind, to my soul? And then begin, step by small step, to make it a place that honors the depth of rest you deserve. Because when you protect your sleep environment, you are not merely designing a room. You are designing a life of deeper presence, of greater strength, and of more profound inner peace. 9. Sleep is your reset button. In the pursuit of personal growth, healing, and emotional mastery, we often focus on what we do during the day, the habits we build, the thoughts we cultivate, the actions we take. But what many forget is that some of the deepest transformation happens not when you are active, but when you surrender. And sleep is the most profound form of surrender we have. Sleep is your reset button, not metaphorically, but biologically. Each night, if you allow it, your body and mind engage in processes of cleansing, repair, and recalibration that no amount of conscious effort can replicate. The Stoics often reminded themselves of the rhythms of nature, that life moves in cycles of activity and rest, expansion and contraction. To ignore these cycles is to live in disharmony, and many today are trapped in a cycle of endless doing, forgetting that rest is not a break from growth. It is an essential part of it. Consider what happens when you sleep well. The brain flushes out toxins accumulated during waking hours through the glymphatic system, a process that only operates effectively during deep sleep. Memory consolidation occurs. Useful information is strengthened. Irrelevant data is pruned. Emotional processing takes place. The subconscious integrates the experiences of the day, helping you wake with greater clarity and resilience. Hormonal balance is restored. Growth hormone is released, aiding tissue repair and cellular regeneration. Immune function is bolstered. Blood pressure is regulated. In short, the entire system is renewed. You wake not simply rested, but reset, with the potential to meet life's challenges from a place of greater balance. But this reset is not automatic. It depends on how you approach sleep. If you stumble into bed carrying unresolved stress, overstimulation, and an unprepared nervous system, the reset is incomplete. The body may be horizontal, but the mind remains agitated. Sleep is fragmented. Restoration is partial. You wake not renewed, but carrying yesterday's residue into today. The Stoics would see this as a failure of preparation. They valued praemeditatio, the practice of anticipating and preparing for what is to come. Sleep is no different. It requires preparation, not merely in the environment but in the inner state you cultivate beforehand. So how do you honor sleep as a true reset button? First, by respecting its importance. Too often, sleep is sacrificed for productivity, entertainment, or distraction, but this is short-sighted. Poor sleep undermines everything: cognitive performance, emotional regulation, physical health. To honor sleep is to honor your future self. Second, by creating a transition ritual. Just as you would not expect a machine to go from full power to complete shutdown instantly, your nervous system needs a transition. This can include dimming lights, engaging in calming practices, such as breathwork or meditation, and setting an intention for the night. I release the day. I allow my body and mind to restore. Third, by aligning your sleep with natural rhythms. This means honoring consistent sleep and wake times, minimizing artificial light exposure at night, and allowing yourself enough time in bed to complete full sleep cycles. When your sleep aligns with your circadian rhythm, the reset is deeper and more complete. Fourth, by addressing what you carry into sleep emotionally. As discussed in previous points, unresolved negativity, anxiety, or cognitive overload can sabotage the reset. The more you release before bed, through reflection, forgiveness, or gratitude, the more fully your system can renew. And finally, by trusting the process. Sleep is a natural gift. You do not need to force it or overthink it. Your role is to create the conditions for it to unfold, then to surrender. And in that surrender, profound transformation occurs. So remember this: no matter how difficult the day, no matter what burdens you carried, sleep offers you the chance to begin again, to clear the slate, to reset not only your body, but your mind and your spirit. And when you honor that opportunity, night after night, you will find that life itself begins to feel more spacious, more resilient, and more aligned, because a well-slept mind is a clear mind, and a clear mind is a powerful mind. 10. The person you sleep as is the person you wake as. There is a profound truth that few truly grasp. The person you fall asleep as, in thought, in emotion, in energetic state, is the person you will rise as. Sleep is not an escape from the self. It is a mirror. It reflects and amplifies who you are becoming. Most people approach sleep passively. They treat it as a biological necessity, something the body does while the mind checks out. But this is a shallow understanding. Sleep is a bridge between who you were today and who you will be tomorrow. And what you carry across that bridge determines whether you wake renewed or burdened. The Stoics would understand this perfectly. They believed that the cultivation of character was not confined to action alone. It extended to thought, to intention, to the unseen layers of the inner life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that virtue must be practiced even in private moments, even in the quiet of one's own mind. And what is sleep, if not the deepest private space we inhabit? When you go to sleep, your subconscious remains active. It processes, it integrates, it rehearses. The emotional tone you fall asleep in influences the dreams you experience, the memories that are strengthened, and the hormonal signals sent to the body. Sleep does not erase the mind, it imprints it more deeply. If you fall asleep consumed by anxiety, resentment, or self-judgment, those patterns deepen overnight. They become more embedded in the fabric of your nervous system, You wake up with that same energy, often magnified. You start the new day not from a place of freshness, but from a continuation of the prior day's unprocessed weight. Conversely, if you fall asleep in a state of gratitude, clarity, and aligned intention, the opposite occurs. Positive emotional states are reinforced. The body enters deeper parasympathetic rest, promoting healing and renewal. You wake with greater resilience, with a mind more attuned to possibility rather than problem. This is why your pre-sleep rituals and your internal state as you drift off are so critical. They are not just about improving sleep quality, though they do. They are about shaping the continuity of self. They determine the direction of your becoming. Here are a few ways to intentionally shape this process. First, self-reflection. Before bed, ask, who was I today? What did I learn? What do I wish to carry forward? This conscious review helps integrate positive growth and release what no longer serves. Second, emotional clearing. If you notice unresolved tension or negativity, practice release. Through forgiveness, gratitude, or even simple breath work, allow yourself to let go. Do not carry today's wounds into tomorrow's potential. Third, positive priming. Engage in a practice that orients the mind toward alignment. Affirmations, visualization, or prayer. The key is to end the waking state with intentional direction so that the subconscious can continue building upon it during sleep. And finally, surrender. Trust the wisdom of sleep. You do not need to force change. You need only create the conditions for it. Then allow the natural intelligence of your mind and body to do their work. Remember, the person you sleep as is the person you wake as. This is not poetic metaphor. It is psychological and biological reality. The night is not a void. It is a vessel. What you pour into it determines what you draw from it. So tonight and every night, choose with care. Choose the thoughts, the emotions, the energies you wish to carry across the bridge of sleep. Because with each passing night, you are not just resting, you are becoming. And when you learn to guide that becoming with wisdom and intention, you wake not just rested, but transformed. Sleep is not a passive escape from life. It is a sacred extension of it. Every night offers you a doorway, a chance to release, to reset, to rewire. But too often, we stumble through that doorway unconsciously, burdened by the noise of the day, trapped in old thought loops, unaware of the incredible opportunity that lies just beneath the surface. What you've explored in this episode is not merely theory, it is a path to reclaim your nights, and through them, your days. Because when you learn to guide the mind before sleep, with words, with intention, with environment, with awareness, you change the very texture of your inner world. You wake lighter, clearer, stronger. You break the cycle of carrying yesterday's wounds into tomorrow's potential. The Stoics understood that mastery of the mind is a practice, not a destination. And that practice does not pause when the body rests. It deepens. Sleep becomes not just a time of unconscious drift, but a time of conscious alignment. A time where seeds of new thought, new healing, new identity can be planted, and where old patterns can be gently released. So I leave you with this invitation. Tonight, do not simply collapse into sleep. Prepare for it as you would prepare for something sacred. Choose what you will think. Choose what you will feel. Choose what you will release. And choose with great care who you will sleep as, for that is who you will wake as. Because every night is a chance to begin again, to renew not only the body, but the self. And when you honor that chance, night after night, you will find that life itself begins to unfold differently, from a place of deeper strength, of quieter wisdom, and of greater peace. Now, close your eyes. The work is done. Let the healing begin.